Hey there, Kelly. What's going on? Oh, I got a frog in my throat already. Hold on. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I don't know why I got a frog in my throat. I felt like I slept well, which is not a easy thing.
Ooh.
Sometimes I don't actually sleep very good, but I slept well and I still have a frog in my throat. But maybe it's the changing of seasons. I still got a fan on me because it is still hot, but it's getting fall worthy, which is nice.
Nice. We've had some really crazy weather with all of the storms that are happening down here in the South. And
Mm.
I just want to take a minute too to also say I've got some friends that are in Louisiana that have had to evacuate, and it's just getting kind of crazy over there. So I want to, send heartfelt prayers and stuff to everyone out there and all of their stuff and everything that's going on there. I've been making donations wherever I can, and I hope everybody can to help out all those displaced people and animals if they can.
I like that. I know our show is always called Difficult People, but I always say we have a heart of gold, like we really are a sweet show. Much like the TV show itself, Billy and
Mhm.
Julie, they aren't really that grumpy actually at all. They're
No, I
they're
mean, they were talking about charitable stuff today, so I thought that that was kind of fitting. So,
kind of, yeah, kind
they're
of kind of sort of, but we know that Julie always cuts the line. That's like her thing. Tell me about your week. Have you had a difficult week yourself?
I
Or
always have a difficult. I mean, there's always a lot of difficulties that kind of like step up and kind of come through, but it's just funny stuff. Like there's always something. I mean,
yeah.
when the pandemic first hit and the whole country, the whole world kind of shut down and everybody was on unemployment, and at the time I was in the height of my event publicity and had to get on unemployment and stuff, and then now the unemployment commission was sending me letters that they overpaid me. So I had
Mm,
to appeal it. And then they sent me a letter back. Oh, just kidding. We didn't overpay
wow.
you. It's like
She's
disregard that. But then we get another letter that's like, wait, they're so confused and it's such a mess. I feel terrible for all the people having to deal with all of that, just all over the place in every different state. But I feel like there was nothing set up. So everybody's just super confused. So if you get one of those letters, appeal it
do
because I
you
don't think
think
anybody knows what's going on.
okay, so this is part of the bad, like the story that you mentioned. This is like a bad situation. But do you think
Yeah.
any of these bad situations you could equate as like you've turned it around and made it something different? Be it like a career shift. Like, do you think I want to know that not just for your point of view, but for like people across the board? Do you think in 5 years everyone's gonna say, yeah, the pandemic was, of course, a miserable experience, but I was able to make some type of personal shift, be it your health, be it a career situation, maybe somebody was in a marriage and that wasn't really the right fit, or there was a lost love they had to reconnect with. Like, do you think in 5 years people are going to be feeling better about situations, or are they going to be like, it was trash, I don't ever want to kind of think about it again?
I think that in my experience, some positive stuff did come out of the whole thing of taking a beat and slowing down,
Mm-hmm.
at least for me in the industry that I was in. And I feel that from the things I read with my network of people, like on different social media places and people that I've spoken to and stuff, that seems to be the consensus. Like, although it was awful and kind of it shook everyone, I think there is more positivity coming out of it because it forced everybody to reevaluate their life in every aspect of it. Because
Right.
you couldn't help, whether it be the people you had in your life that you got stuck with, or, the job that you were doing that disappeared, and
Yeah.
just kind of it gave everybody a chance to kind of just reset and reevaluate. And it definitely did that for me. And I completely changed my entire career path. So
I
it,
do think that that did happen a little bit, because I think about like, this concept of you and I recapping difficult people was always a thing that was in my mind and your mind. Like, we had a kind of low key already talked about it, but it sometimes did take like that slowdown. Like, now everything is sort of back to normal as it can be. But I
mhm.
think that that is one good thing. Like, having a little bit of a slowdown moment did allow for like, hey, Kelly, we've been having this idea. I mean, it's not like Julie in the show doesn't talk about recaps all the time. Like, and I remember looking, and not to say that anyone can't do it, but there wasn't another group of people doing a difficult people breakdown. So I was like, this could be a thing. So I guess in that regard,
Right.
it was actually a positive shift. And I think even our show's been a shift. I was telling you last week, aside from my naughty 24-hour fitness story, I was telling you that my goals for the new season is to like not have such a resting bitch face when it comes to like listening. Like, I'm the sweetest human being, but like, well, I mean, not always, but when I listen, I'm usually so grumpy looking. I don't know what's going on with
Well,
me.
I feel like you're just really trying to pay attention. So you're really focused on what you're
Yeah.
hearing. And that's not a bad thing. Looking somebody in the face and you're taking in what they say. And that's, when people actually look at me in my eyes when I'm talking, sometimes it freaks me out. It's not very many people actually do that. When they actually look at you and they're hearing what you say.
There's like the 3-second rule. It's like, you look for 3 seconds, I look for 3 seconds, and then one of us turns away and then come back for 3. And then if you don't play by that rule,
hold that gaze, it's like kind of uncomfortable a little bit. But
I'm not trying to fall in love with Kellie. Like, what the heck?
So it's like, but at the same time, if you think about it the other way, that means that you're actually engaging, you're paying attention, you're taking in what the other person's saying. So
yeah. Well, I just want to say that I've been having a blast doing this show. And I was telling you, I keep saying that the other two is such a similar show. And I don't want to say that the other two that's now on HBO Max, it was from Comedy Central originally, is exactly the same. I'm just basically saying, like, the character's name is Carrie. Like, Carrie would be at the same audition as Billy, type of thing. It's like they're the same yet they're different, but it's just so refreshing to have that kind of comedy. You know what I mean? Because the difficult people humor was great. The cameos were great. So obviously, Difficult People is our favorite. But it's good to have other things to laugh at right now. Yeah, I'm into it all, but I'm going to try to be a little warmer with how I receive the information when we talk about our great show. Can I tell you what I think it was on accident, Kellie? I think it was because we both come from radio to a degree. And when you and I were 22, 23 years old and we're working at Clear Channel, Los Angeles, even though we're at the lower level at that time, and then of course I've done radio in Vegas and Riverside and Phoenix and all of these places, and worked in production at different big things too, America's Got Talent, whatever. I'm being honest with you, I felt so nervous about doing just a rickety show. I was like, oh my God, no one's going to want to see us do a rickety show. But it has occurred to me, Kellie, that nothing is more rickety than Julie and Billy in this series. And I don't mean Eichner and Klausner. I mean Kessler and Epstein in the vein of the show. So I think we fit in perfectly.
I think exactly. I mean, to bring in the personal similarities that we have with the show, I think just makes it that much more fun to talk about, because it is super relatable. All of the stuff, as outrageous as it is, I guarantee that you and I can find a realistic story that we live that's pretty similar to that.
Well,
in every episode,
even in this episode, I love it because when Julie was talking to the inmates, she was saying a recap is not about the show, it's about yourself. And I was like, I have never been more seen, Julie. Because I have found that sometimes we try to recap the damn show, but it's really more about I want to know about Kellie's life and my life. But anyways, we're trying to be a little bit more open. But it excites me about this episode, season 2, episode 2.
All right. So this exciting and most ridiculous episode starts out in the streets of New York City. So, the two, they're trying to get wherever they're going. And, I love how Julie says, I feel if you just push people out of the way, they don't even know where it's coming from. Just shove them.
Kind of true. Kind of true.
Being in New York, I've kind of done the same thing. It's like, in an LA nightclub, right? When we're doing events, just kind of elbowing your way through. But they don't realize that they're actually escorting someone in to a certain place of business that a lot of people are protesting. So of course it starts out with them in the wrong place at the wrong time, not even realizing what they're doing, which is always fun.
And he's already disoriented because he's been asleep for 3 days, which opens up his mind, which we all have had these weird moments where we just have had to make up our sleep. But it's like the first thing he thinks of is oh, if it goes awry, who's going to be here to kind of see what goes on? So his whole mindset is off, and that's what made it really good. And their lack of personal space and reading the room is just terrible. Everyone has different opinions of the right to choose, but it's just so funny that something so important they don't give a care about other than them being able to get across the line.
They end up with a gift bag. So it's like they win, right?
Yeah, but it's hard for us, the viewer, to watch because it's like
Yes.
it's like you should
Because
not be
they're
celebrating
so
this.
oblivious.
And
So
Julie,
oblivious to the to what the conversation is. Like that's what it is, right?
and you know, this is the great thing about us watching the show over and over. I did not notice, but Julie had a terrible. And again, we got to make sure that we mention it's Julie Kessler who said this, not Julie Klausner, right? You know, not the human, but the writing. The character made a comment I won't even repeat, but it was about the penny. You give something, you take something. I was like, why did I never really hear that? And then when I rewatched it, you know, as we're getting ready for our recap, you know, I've watched all these episodes 6 times, but I was like, you cannot, what? That's not
But
funny.
but you have to give it to, you know, this was a few years ago, right? So the taking the risk of that kind of writing, I feel is such a brave thing to do, because it's like, who's going to go there, right? In such a nonchalant way that you don't even so you kind of miss it.
That is, and I mentioned the other two, and it's great writing, but that is a little bit, you are right that like everything has changed so dramatically since this show started in 2015. This season might have been 2016, but yeah, like I guess, and we mentioned this a little bit, maybe not on the show, but even off camera, we mentioned how sometimes you got to take the pain and create it as humor, you know, like last episode. And I think that's why the jokes work so well. And you are absolutely right. In the era that we're in now, like I'm not one of these people, Kelly, who's like, oh, we can't let comics be comics. Why is everyone so sensitive? I'm all for the sensitivity, you know, because there's lots of reasons that it's necessary. But in regards to what you just said, there's a lot of really good reasons why we do need to let these jokes really hit in the way that they do. Because here's why I think, rather than it be a cancel situation, there is a woman who's just like Julie. You know what I mean? Like or a person, right? And that's it's sticky. It's hard to watch. But it's a good show. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it gives a perspective too, like for that particular conversation, no matter what side of the coin you fall on, that joke is a little bit of both, right? Because if you're insensitive to it, you know, it kind of, it's so kind of, how do I want to put it? It makes it less than it is, right? It's not that big of a deal. It's, you know, dropping off and picking up, right?
Yeah.
So, but then on the other side of it, it's you're leaving something behind. So it's not lost on anyone. So I feel like that even though it's meant to be a joke, if when you really kind of think about it, there's a little bit more into it where it's, I don't know, I just feel like it's such great writing, and everything always is, because no matter what they're making fun of in, you know, things that are horrible that have happened in the world, there's always substance behind it when you really dig into the words that they're saying. And I love to like pick at it like that.
Yeah. And as always, you know, it's important to say for me, I am a male and my uterus will not be able to give such an opportunity. So I really don't have much to say for something that does not really affect me in that way. The only thing I can think about is, yes, it is just really weird that like, as much as the people cared about this side or that side of this difficult situation, it just felt a little better to watch at that time, because now it's like, we're just in a Twitter complete divisiveness, which is just so unfun to sort of navigate through. And the serious issues were always the serious issues, but they're like, they're just, I don't know. It's refreshing, like you say, to watch a show, gosh, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and just be like, oh my God, that is shit, Julie.
Like, did she say that really?
Yeah. But what's gonna stop her? She treats her own boyfriend on the show bad too. So like, this is just who she is. I mean, she has no sympathy.
But again, it's like that a little obliviousness, right? That nothing's a big deal. Like to her, nothing's that big of a deal, no matter what she's talking about. Like everything's always up for joking.
Yeah.
And you know,
unless it's showbiz is what she cares about. Yeah.
Totally. It's, you know, making light of everything. And, you know, I like to think I have a pretty good sense of humor, but if something is, you know, kind of a little bit personal to me that someone wants to joke about, I can get a little bit sensitive. And, you know, I found myself recently like getting upset over something that was meant to be a joke, and I just didn't take it that way. And it's funny how to her everything's a joke. And I love, like, in her relationship that Arthur can always just kind of dismiss her because he doesn't take it as personal as sometimes I can take things.
But you make a good point. There's nuance to everything. You, toughest bitch I know. I mean, Kellie ain't nobody, right? And a hard worker too, right? If I was as beautiful as Kellie, I'd find a rich man and open my legs. Like, this is what it would be. But, Kellie has character. So I think it's interesting that somebody as strong as you is definitely saying that. You're saying, no, I would get sensitive to certain things. And I think that's how it should be. It shouldn't be a yes or no, a black and white situation. Some issues are going to make you be like, screw him, like, cancel him. Don't like, why does he get a career? And then other situations you'll let roll off the back because it is humor and it is comedy. And I think we are the perfect people to discuss such stuff.
always.
Yeah, NBC should give us a late night, late show. 3:30 in the morning.
It prompts these guys to want to come up with their own charity because they need to get attention, right? So they're not famous, but if they come up with something with famous people, like, at that point it was the Ice Bucket Challenge that was kind of going around, then that can elevate their careers, right? So now they're on a mission. They got to find the next Ice Bucket Challenge that's even better. So their little montage of ideas just have me cracking up. Like, where does this even come from? Make out with a trash can? Come on.
Taya Leone, make out with the trash can. And it's always like that, I've not been in a writer's room, but like when you really hit like certain names are just funny. I think there was the time that Julie in one of the episodes goes like, don't say that. You make it sound like my body looks like Tyne Daly's. Like, when you say, and I don't know if this was an active decision in the writer's room, like which person they were going to say, but like, do this Regina King, do this Taya Leone. Like, it is so funny. And that one was the one that got me the most, is that you were like, you're going to kiss a trash can, Taya Leone. Hit your head with a pot. I couldn't remember who the person was, but it shows how asinine these challenges are. They start in a very good place. The ALS challenge was of value, but then like other people abuse challenges, and then challenges has become a thing that aren't even a personal cause. They're just a fun
way to get attention.
Have you ever done the challenges? Not, I don't mean the charitable ones, but there was the Harlem Shake was one.
And I didn't do that driving, that feeling in my, whatever that Drake one was, where people were crashing their cars and no, I'm not about any of that. That's all ridiculous. Or the one where the kids were eating Tide Pods or whatever. Like, I think they just get more and more ridiculous when they're just trying to do something to get famous real quick, like to become a YouTube celebrity, which is essentially what Billy and Julie are trying to do right now. So they're pretty much looking for a Tide Pod challenge versus an actual legitimate charitable challenge.
I feel for them in a degree, because it's like they really would rather do the regular route, which is the audition, the networking, the skill set, the classes. But it just goes to show, I mean, how many episodes ago it was, Marilyn introduced Julie to the girl that she used to babysit, and that girl's like a YouTuber who believes in herself. So I so sympathize with that situation where it's like, I don't know how many times people said, oh, especially when I was working in radio, mind you, they'd be like, oh, well, just do this, Ronnie, like it will work. I don't like, it's stupid. I'm not 19, and I think that's actually a huge compromise to the arts too, if everyone's trying to do the same thing. But in this case, this was Julie at her worst, because it is kind of sucky to utilize a charity, which is of benefit to a difficult situation, for your advancement. However, I do think that there's probably lots and lots of people who really do that already. And I feel,
sure. Yeah.
I mean, you probably know some stuff.
I mean, there's tons of that going on already, where it's, let me throw this organization's name on it and see how much money I make, and I'll give them 10% of the proceeds. It reminds me of like a Seinfeld episode where George was like made up this like the human fund, right?
Yes.
It was something like that. I probably got it wrong. My sister will kill me. She's like a huge Seinfeld fan. Yeah. But it was something like that. Like, it was just like, this is for the humans. Like, it was kind of so ridiculous. Or it wasn't real. But
what a show. That is a good show. And I think we all we all relate to our George Costanza. Like we all feel him so much. And if you, as a person, as a human person, say that George is not your favorite one on the show, it's not dissing Seinfeld, but George was, he was the he was the you know, I mean, he was the Larry you know, David. But another great show of just you know,
a whole lot of nothingness,
a lot of grunt. We love a grumpy person. We love a grumpy person. I've never been more seen.
Well, and speaking of Marilyn's super upset because she no longer has a housekeeper. So she's in the bathroom, like she's cleaning the bathroom. Yeah. And Julie's like, what happened here? And that's where she gets her brilliant idea when her mom's got gloves on cleaning the toilet. She's got a whole new concept.
Speaking of obviously a difficult situation, gentrification, but I did have the chuckle. You know, I lived on 145th, so I was always up near 207 and all that, the park that overlooks the Hudson. And yeah, it is like those jokes are, they're cringeworthy that there's going to be condos in Inwood of this stature, but that is what was happening, you know, at the time, or probably still. Like they're just knocking down communities and like building these, you know, huge, you know, so it was bad by Marilyn, but it was relatable to a degree. But yes, it causes her to have to be in this situation, and she's so upset about it. But then Julie, of course, never really listens to reason. She just listens to, that's it. That's embarrassing. What'd she say? That's embarrassing. It looks silly, and it would be great for a challenge. So it was.
But you know what's so funny is because you kind of get as the episode progresses a little bit, and you see how Marilyn kind of uses her situation and takes advantage of one of her patients. You see where Julie kind of gets this from, right? Yeah. So she kind of dismisses, you know, Marilyn's situation, not really listening to what because she's both super hyper focused on what she needs, because they each are, right? They're each selfish in those similar ways, and you see kind of where those
the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Yeah. Well, where do you think it comes from for Marilyn? Because with Julie, we feel like it comes from the fact that she's had a lot of failures and she's always trying to appease her mother. We don't know about Marilyn's mother, but where do you think it comes from? In my mind, I think it's that she feels like she could always outwit or outsmart somebody, but she doesn't realize how selfish she is. Do you think it's that or something else?
It could be kind of like a little bit of a sense of entitlement that she's just entitled to have these things for these certain reasons. And it's, you know, it's like she needed somebody to clean her house, right? She has a patient who has OCD. So she's like, oh, and as she asks her more questions, she's digging into how deep is your OCD? Let me cure you. Here's an exercise we're going to do. Go clean my house, you know? So it's using somebody else's strife to better yourself. And I think that's what Julie does, right? Yeah. So she's, you know, trying to bank off of what's, you know, this charitable thing in order to elevate herself. And they're similar in those ways, but yet they go about them very differently, which I think is funny. So I wonder if for Marilyn, that comes from like a family thing. Like, you know, her parents kind of, you know, not actually, like she's worked for stuff. She's obviously like gone to school, got a degree. She's a therapist, all of this stuff. So she's, you know, maybe she just didn't have to work as hard in certain areas. So those certain social cues are lacking, you know, I don't know.
Well, yeah, it could be a transitional thing where her life wasn't what it is now. So when you feel like you've acquired it, you somewhat leave your manners behind, you know, because you feel like, well, I've created this, you could create this too. And if you don't, that's on you. It could be one of those things. The thing is though, Marilyn, she's so sweet though. She does miss the social cues, but I just love her so much. You know, that's the thing.
She's great. Like she's great because it doesn't come across as malicious at all. It's just kind of like, conniving. Again, that absent-mindedness, like the same with Julie and the joke, right? Where it's just like, this is just who they are. They're not intending to be insensitive. Sometimes they just are.
Yeah. Good cameos yet again. I mean, Nathan Lane, Megan Hilty. I mean, it's just like, you know, and I thought it was so interesting off the show, like something that's not show worthy. Isn't it interesting that Nathan Lane, of course, has done everything, but what do you call it? Billy Eichner ended up being the remake of the Timon character in The Lion King. So they both had
I
the occupied the
know.
same character. I know it's like a little side note, but I'm like, years later, after this was,
Mhm.
aired, that would be something that Billy would take on that same role, and it's like a coveted role because I think like if you have Nathan Lane's role, like that is a huge
I mean, who
daunting.
doesn't love Timon? And every time, even now, anytime I think of that, like I only hear Nathan Lane's voice. Sorry.
Yeah. No, well, no, I mean they're both that's what just
Yeah.
say. That's the thing. It's like Billy was already Billy from the streets, and then this show
Mhm.
ushered him into something. But like after this show, he's been ushered into like, the next stage and of career, and he's just so good. So it's always so fun to see this part of his career. I mean, not to knock physical appearance, because let me tell you, I've got ways to go. But his season 1 look and his season 2 look is a lot different. The glow up is
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, but it's funny, the just kind of their kismet meeting with Nathan Lane, and he's complimenting the dogs, and they're like, oh my gosh, we're huge fans, would you come and participate in this charitable thing? They don't even really know the name of the charity. They're putting all these words together.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's, he's like, oh, oh, that's my charity. Yes, sure, I'll do whatever. It's like, let me go with these two strangers to a public bathroom and stick my head in its toilet.
It's so crazy because you would think that Billy and Julie would take, like, it's that cutting the line thing we keep saying every time with the way Julie reacts. You have an opportunity to meet him and to maybe take from him, not take anything, but like absorb his knowledge. You know what I mean? Like if you meet somebody
Right.
on the street that you respect, like wouldn't you want to just get like career advice? They just go straight to the selfish space. They should have used that moment to like, absorb. Like a friend of mine recently was walking in New York City, and he was telling me, and he was always been obsessed with Wolverine. So he saw Hugh Jackman, and he said that, not in a stalker way, but he said that he took it as like, I'm gonna go say hello, and I'm gonna say your work inspires me. I'm an actor, obviously not really working, but it's still my goal and my aspiration. You inspire me. And he had like a 5-minute exchange with Hugh Jackman. To me, that moment went so far, and I kind of wish Billy and Julie would have more like spoke to that, the producers, the birdcage, or just
Right.
all the great Nathan Lane-ness of it all. But they quickly like use the namesake, use the popularity, and tell themselves that we're just going to manipulate this guy who could pretty much help us. They could have said, can you be my mentor? And he may have done it. I mean, he was funny. I love the way he goes, oh, he goes, we love you, we love you. He goes, oh, a gay guy and his best girl. Hard to believe. I don't know why that made
But
me
he's
laugh.
like, oh, guys, can I be on YouTube? Oh, my dreams are coming true.
I made it. Someone as talented as him. And then that joke was funny too. I will tell you the joke where he goes, oh, the last time I followed somebody into a bathroom randomly. Again, I applaud these moments in my life, even that I have been to. Not to
But the
say
fact that he was so entrusting to do that, they could have probably gotten something out of it, as you're saying, and
Yeah.
they didn't. They're always just looking for the shortcut, which I feel, and we say this all the time, that they've missed some really great, stepping stones and other opportunities that could have led them down a different path because they're just trying to do the shortcut. So here, and of course this is disastrous, as how could it not be? They're taking someone into a public bath, having somebody stick their hand in a toilet. Like, it's ridiculous.
I never really noticed right off the bat. Nathan Lane goes like, I don't feel good, like not like mentally, but I feel unhealthy, like I'm feeling sick. So it's funny how where the episode goes, and he was alluding to early on, like this is not really healthy. And I love the way Julie was like, oh, you're gonna like, she like dismissed him. She's like, oh, you're gonna he doesn't get a hot husband, and you're gonna just like, look what you're gonna do to Billy. Like
Look
Billy
how
was
selfish you are.
Billy was the suffering human being in Julie's eyes. I was like, oh yeah, like, oh, you're really gonna say that? Oh, you have a husband? Oh well, I can't believe you said that.
Well, yeah, because the point of all of this is to get him a husband, or to get him a boyfriend, and and to elevate and make them famous, right? That's the whole point. They're not trying to do they need fame and a boyfriend. That's their goal.
Which asks the question, do you get a hotter boo thing if you have like a notoriety? Dan Savage to Terry. Have you seen Terry on the Instagrams lately, Kelly? It's beautiful. And Dan has got a good heart and a good cause. So I can at least understand. You haven't seen on the Instagrams lately. Oh, it's if scantily clad was a human, it would be Dan
Oh,
Savage's.
okay.
Yeah,
Mm.
bad joke and all, but I do like the way Julie was like, and yeah, he helped out a couple gay kids along the way. It's like, okay, Julie, this was only one of the bigger, strong positive momentums in regards to it gets better. It was a good campaign, and she totally dismisses it. I was like, oh my God, Julie,
As she dismisses everything.
you're so terrible in the vein of your jokes. She just doesn't like to take life seriously because then maybe she has to reflect a little bit more within, such
Yeah.
as being nice to Arthur by going to one movie with him and like looking at a home that she doesn't want to live because she's too punk rock. Like, get out of here. Oh, selfish. I don't.
And she ruins the whole thing anyway, just by being herself.
One problem after the next. She just is completely like a selfish lady. And he loves her. He puts up with her.
He does. Gotta love him. He sure does.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the alcohol.
As Marilyn says, one movie a year. Could you imagine like that? How would you be if you were dating somebody and they were that like not letting you be seen, or your wishes or your wants? Like, a goal in a relationship isn't to just be on hand and foot for the next person, is it? Unless maybe that's what, maybe his pride, not pride, but his purpose is to be there for her. I don't know. I can't call it.
Or maybe she's different when it's just them. Maybe, there's a little bit different when, and, maybe he likes his, the solitude that he can get from their relationship because she's not so needy. So maybe that's how they balance each other out. He has time for his, his cooking and his art and the things that he likes to do. So
very yin yang. Yeah.
Maybe that's how it works.
We don't always date us. We date something so different, which will make us, bring out our best or push us and challenge and all that stuff. So
you got to find that balance, right? So maybe
and Billy is still trying to find it.
He is. He's still trying to find it. Yep. And that's the point of this whole episode. He needs some help. And it's just not happening. I mean, he slept for 3 days and nobody noticed until the third day.
He does start engaging though with trying to date. This is where we meet. What is the actor's name? Neil I believe his name is. He was on he won Dancing with the Stars, but he was also on Top Model as well. And has done a ton of stuff. I thought that was good that Billy was making some attempts. The storyline was a bit interesting because the interpreter we thought was just like a nice interpreter, but we realized that he was the ex, and that caused like a whole bunch of problems in the romance department. But it was funny.
It was funny, and he was going to ask the next person out that he saw. Well, wait, no, the next male. Well, no, the next male that I'm attracted to. No, the next male that's hot and that I'm attracted to.
Well, you saw the way everyone in the there she goes.
Sorry.
You saw. I'll keep the sentence going for a moment. While you get. There we go. We saw the way that everyone in the diner, like, they don't even have a chance to really like support him because he is that way. He is that picky. Like, right. I like the way the first or second person that came in, like, at least they were like trying to see, oh, he's gonna, approach them. But after a while, they're like, oh, like he's a lost cause, And
they all just disperse.
Yeah.
Well, and then they thought, they're like, Billy, you're alive. And they hired somebody else because he had shown up for a few days. And
yeah. I love that we have Lola, Shakina.
So we have a new character.
Shakina, who has done all sorts of shows and is just such a powerhouse in the performance aspect. So it's just like really incredible to see like the Lola character. It's like the start of something really, really cool, and it's only going to piss off Billy more in the diner, which is going to lead his antics outside of the diner.
Oh, of course. And then we find out that Matthew is engaged. Billy can't get a date and Matthew's engaged. It's all great stuff.
I don't want to jump ahead, but when Matthew at the end, he says, I never really liked the taste of foreskin. And you're just like, oh my God, he is talking about this 95-year-old. And just the way, I mean, Cola Scola to give Matthew this, it was so rich. It was so tasty,
I like
if
how
you
they're
will.
like, okay, cheers. And he's like, oh, well, there was more, but okay. Cheers.
Oh my God. They're just all.
Everybody's like, I don't want to hear that.
They're all so terrible. And in a way, no one's being mean to Billy, but imagine if you're with this group of people that just makes you feel so uncomfortable. I'm not giving Billy a pass, but he is not in a hospitable environment for like his best self, you know.
No.
And then you've got Red, who's just going to help you, you know. Julia is his yes person, so you can see how he navigates the way he does in the city of trying to get a boo and trying to get a career, you know, and none of which are working. Not
No,
nowadays.
and now he's just, pissed off Nathan Lane. So that's, there's nothing good can come of that.
Yeah.
How dare he?
Yeah, that was a terrible situation.
So Julie and Arthur are going on their co-op meetings. They finally have made a deal that Julie gets to have more animals and the animals get to have their own room. And so Arthur gets his new apartment. So she's going to go to this co-op meeting, right?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, on their way there, Arthur's like, okay, first of all, they're walking through the park, which Julie hates.
Yeah.
So she's complaining. She complains about everything, right? That's all she does.
Well,
everything is a hassle.
She did last week. She goes, remind me why we walked for 20 blocks. So she goes, being outside and walking without the aspect of walking a dog seems like an unnecessary thing to do, which is like, Julie, if you can't be sufficed walking in the park, like you've got an issue. Although in her mind, she's more punk rock than that. But it's always interesting when people want to hold on to who they are and who they want to be. But there is times where you got to grow and get older. You just do. Like you're not as, I mean, you're watching Barbara Eden, so you're not as punk rock as you ever thought. So there you go. But she's trying to be supportive, which we like. So that's the push and pull that we can finally say, yes, Julie, this is good, right? I mean,
she's trying. Yes, she's trying. So, and she says that she doesn't want to disappoint him in this particular scenario in this way. So she's trying her best. But Arthur has now said, okay, they don't want to show up empty-handed, so he wants to go get some wine. And she's walking by this part in Central Park where they have done kind of an homage to Alice in Wonderland. And I remember that place in the park. Like they have the statues and, like all of that. Do you remember where that is?
I've walked everywhere in that city. I've never walked by that ever.
You've never walked by that?
Never.
I like it. I think it's over by the carousel. So it's over in that area by the carousel, I believe, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, and it has like the statues of Alice and a couple of other characters, and it's a whole thing. It's got plaques and talks about the thing.
I've walked most of it, but I did I did the reservoir, of course. I would jog it, but I tended to not do the touristy stuff, not like I'm above it, but I would always have a naughty bone in my body where I would prefer to go to Sheep's Meadow, where there was a lot of the beautiful bodies just frolicking with frisbees. Beautiful bodies frolicking with frisbees on Sheep's Meadow always really took to me a little bit more. But I don't recall. I'm so nasty.
Well, the thing is, every time I would go to New York, I would always walk through a different part of the park, like on purpose. I would always like walk around, and my sister is an artist, and so I would always go to the Met and bring her something back from the museum. So I would always find ways to, it's on one side of the park. So I would always walk through the park different ways to get there, depending on what part of the city I was staying in.
It really is gorgeous.
Get her something from there. And I just like accidentally ended up at the carousels because I could never find it. And I would always get lost. Like, I don't think I've ever even seen the zoo in there. Like, I've walked around so many different parts, but I've never made it wherever the zoo is.
It's all pretty close. It's on the east side. I've been to the zoo portion, and I believe it's kind of all close. The tavern and this and that.
But you take a wrong turn and then you end up back where you started, and then it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Reservoir was fun because that was like a place you would go and you could do the jog. You go around it once, it's a mile. But again, I would like the Sheep's Meadow in the summer because it was like a perfect, like, yes, there was a lot of cuties, but you'd go with some friends and you would drink wine. It was fun. I just like, shame on me. Like, I would never really kind of look at the stuff that was like more not touristy, but like of not history, what would you call that, of notable. I wouldn't look at the notable stuff. I don't know why.
This is a cool, at least I thought, like, it was a cool thing, and it was different. And when I saw it, I didn't know anything about it, so I was just kind of reading the stuff around. We were walking around and stuff, and
I just get so bummed about Julie, because Arthur has this great bit of like conversation where he's like, oh, we did a special on this. He works for the public access.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just wish sometimes she could like ask like, oh, what was it about, or like get educated by something that's of interest to him. I just don't like that she doesn't, when he's providing something that's, you know, if her eyes said, oh, look at this, and he goes, oh, I know about it, why wouldn't you turn to your mate, you know, who you're dating, the love of your life, and say, oh, give me some info, give me some dialogue? Why is she so quick to just not listen to him? That just bothers
Because
me.
he's not Billy. She's got a really like screwed up kind of priority when it comes to the two of them in her life. Like if it was Billy telling her, she would listen. But the fact that it's Arthur, she's bored. And that's unfortunate for him. She's not interested in anything he has to say. But I bet you if Billy said the same thing, because he would do it in that backhanded kind of like tone that they use, she would probably listen.
Maybe she compartmentalizes her life, you know, because she tells Billy, why do you need a boyfriend when you could just have, you know, randos, and you have me for the companionship. Right. So I think we cued on that. It was a great episode. I feel like I'm starting to have gas, so I'm gonna have to like wrap the broadcast soon. It's just is happening, but let's finish it up. And you know, okay. I just felt like time to be real, baby.
All right. Well, she's, you know, people have, you know, paid homage to these statues and this display that they have there. And so she decides she's going to grab flowers that people have put out and take them to the co-op meeting. And of course, that doesn't go well, because why would it go well? And she ends up knocking things over, gets arrested for public vandalism, and they miss their meeting. They miss their interview. Yeah. And she feels, you know, she has to go to jail. So she's, you know, and I like how Billy's like, you know, of all the things that I've done in Central Park, you're the one that gets arrested.
Yes. Yeah, we see this moment. Yeah, Nathan Lane is going into a restroom near the park, or a park, you know, and he has the reference of all these naughty moments he's had, you know, out in the streets. And here she can't get it together and do a normal thing at a park and not get in trouble for it. She's right, though. On episode 1, she said she's always been an indoors gal. And that is just who she is through and through. That is who she is through and through.
It is.
He doesn't like... Yeah.
Oh no, she doesn't like anything physical. No. Unless it gets her to wherever she needs to be that benefits her.
Yeah. Come to think of it, I don't even feel like she's a really good subway rider. I think she's probably just in the cab mostly. But I know she has to take the subway at some point, but you know, maybe not. I don't know. It's just,
I don't know. Have we seen her take the subway? Have we seen them take the subway? I honestly can't remember right now.
I feel like we have for sure him. I just can't recall her, but I feel like even if she did it, she'd have some type of problem. She'd have some kind of issue. I feel like she's the type that could be so beloved of New York City, which could be dirty at times, you know, the trash and all that stuff, which I think it's the greatest city. But I feel like she would be the type that would go into the subway and ride the train and like have a problem, but problems that I think I could identify with, like, don't stare at me. You know, why are you invading my personal space? Which you don't have a choice in that matter because everyone's like packed in there. But yeah, she's an indoors gal. That's the only thing I could come to conclusion with this. She is not about being out and about. She just doesn't like it. And I guess we got to give her a little bit of kudos, because she even gave a little bit of like potential, like maybe we could look at this place, you know, even though she liked where she lived. But for her own sake, she would have been closer to her mother. She would have been more in a grown environment, in a more space. And, you know, it is exciting to like find the apartment that finally opens up. Like, she should have started to think about her future and not like who she is. But sometimes we do that as people. We're resorted to our punk rockness, or how, whatever that is, you know, like, I'm not of this, I'm of that, you know, right. Like you predefine yourself a lot of times. I have done it, and I'm like okay with it because it happens. But you know, going forward, you do want to like be like, well, I am who I am, but like, where do I want to be? Where do I want to go? You know, what is the best situation for my future? Isn't that funny? It's crazy, right?
It is. And you know, and sometimes, you know, you just
the gas went away. It's I was worried. I thought I had a silent but deadly that I could have squeezed out, but then I realized it was not going to be one. So then you would have heard it. So then I was like, oh, let me have Kelly wrap it up quick. But now we're in a okay space, but we should still wrap up soon. I pushed it down. I gave it a little.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, they missed their interview, but Arthur manages to pull some strings and get a second interview for the place. while Julie has to decide between community service or jail. And she decides to do community service, and she's going to teach a class at the prison to the inmates, as you had mentioned early on.
Yeah.
That, she's teaching them how to write recaps.
Yeah.
And that's what she's doing for vandalizing stuff at the park.
It makes me feel like there are times, and I'm being honest, where I feel like, are Kellie and I, while we're amazing, I'm like, are we even like the right people to recap this show? Like, I'll feel like a little nervous. I'm like, yeah, I've done radio. Kellie's been a dynamic PR, rep, like just doing the biggest opportunities and biggest career moves in Hollywood. And then I'm like, oh my God, but I was never like a writer. Like, can I speak to this humor? But then when I feel that the character Julie Kessler talks about recaps so much, I'm like, if you track back, Kellie and I were doing recaps in 2011. We used to recap happy endings. You recapped Eastbound and Down.
Yes.
We did this at AfterBuzz. If anything, we invented the wheel.
Grey's Anatomy. I mean,
yeah. If
Pretty
anything,
Little Liars.
Julie Kessler in this fictional world must have saw our recaps and said, I would like to do what Ronnie and Kellie are doing. If anything, we lost her again.
I mean, yes.
Boom. Isn't that funny though? And thinking about that too, I was actually reminiscing too about like recaps and just all of the stuff. I was going to tell you what was really interesting. One of the times when we recap happy endings, it's very funny to see people grow in such a way. When we were recapping happy endings, one of the writers at the time was Prentice Penny, who went on to become super successful with the TV show Insecure, this, that, and the other, and he keeps succeeding. It's just always so intriguing to see like the writers and where the careers go. I mean, I referenced a second ago that Billy, now at one point has Nathan Lane as a guest star on his show, and then they both become Timon, or we interviewed writers years ago, and then they're succeeding in such a big way. Basically, everyone is succeeding except for you and I.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but
I feel like if you get the kiss from Ronnie, you succeed. But here I'm over here just like Humpty Dumpty, and ain't nothing working. Whatever.
I mean, it's just all timing for everybody, right? So, but it's really cool to kind of see that, because I mean, Happy Endings, I loved that show, and I, thought it was great. And, everyone on that show was, awesome. All the characters, the casting was so great, and all of that with the writers and everything. So it's good to see, Prentice Penny, like now he has a first look deal with HBO. He's like, doing all of these great stuff, creating all of his own stuff with his own production company and all of that. So it's awesome to see like these people that have, worked so hard, and we've appreciated all that they've done on television, that they just get to continue to do that, and more opportunities are coming their way. It's nice.
I think it's interesting too to see it in the creative space, how like you'll see somebody they're writing on a show, but maybe that's like not their interest. Not that Happy Endings wasn't the funniest show, but maybe it was like just a generic, situation, and then get to rise and do something that's more like a passion project. You know what I mean? So I just think that is so cool. And I was just actually thinking of you the other day when I think it was a week and a half ago, it was National Radio Day. So there was like a lot of old photos, and I was like, wow, me and Kellie done had lots of experiences too. So it's just really cool. But yeah, Julie is telling them that, this is how a recap is supposed to go. But if we were to let that scene go longer, she probably would have said, and the people that I learned from were from Ronnie and Kellie circa 2010 or something like that at AfterBuzz. Probably, maybe. I don't know. Probably. We invented the wheel.
I mean, thanks to Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro, right?
Yes,
giving that opportunity.
Yes. Recaps are fun. Everyone's doing them, but I just feel real special that we have found a way to do them the way that is good for us. Not to say you can't do other recaps or other podcasts and be super successful as well. And same with me, but like, I like what we've created together. It's been real fun.
Oh, absolutely.
See? The resting bitch face is going away. Oh my God. Have I got laid or something? Like, why am I feeling so good right now?
Oh no, you got some of that Billy energy when he was at the gym, when he was in his little Pretty Woman montage.
No more gym talk. I think I told somebody in my family about that gym conversation. I was like, oh yeah, on the episode this came up. They were like, it came up on the recording. I says, of course it did. I have to keep it real.
Why would it not?
Yeah, keep it real. It happened.
I know. But this show is always so fun to do, and I'm excited for the rest of the episodes and just more as the seasons kind of pan out. And definitely want to see more of Marilyn, since she's cured her OCD patient. That she's curing people, getting them to do her housework. She's ridding them of their ailments, which is fantastic.
She just does this thing where she always talks to her patients and she gets more out of them than she even gives sometimes, be it the surging, be it the like, oh, your daughter was in a cult. Well, I'll have to watch out for this or whatever. She's always thinking about herself a little bit more than the person, And then you have the nutty side of her too, which is like, I'm going to make you, she's trying to make Billy stop eating pasta early on. It's just, there's always an antidote. She's like a bit of a busybody. We know that in the show, her husband, Julie's dad, is somewhere. We just never get to see him, which makes her a busybody. So it's perfect. Oh, I would give anything for a reunion movie or something like that of this show. But so far so good. We are approaching the Piñata episode, which is one of my favorites because you have that epic line, "Different kind of daddy," which I will say in the episode of the other two, they did one of those jokes too. So I was like, oh, really? You see? Yeah, different but similar.
I need to watch it. I keep seeing it pop up on my HBO Max, so I definitely need to check it out. I need to make some time for that for sure. But
I'll be sure to badger you until you
do. Yes, until I watch. Well, that's what happened with Yellowstone. I kept getting badgered to watch it. I finally watched it, and then I couldn't turn away. Like it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, so long as people keep supporting Viridian Row and my Patreon,
of course,
patreon.com/randomlyRJ Jr., Kelly and I will recap every fucking show.
Every show there is, yes.
Right now we give you one a week, and it's very rickety because
yeah, what we gotta do, which we used to do at AfterBuzz, and I really miss doing. And
please don't say acknowledge the fans or be like talk to people. I can give two cares. But what do you think?
I am gonna say that.
See, she's the nice one.
I want no, but I like that because I like to get engaged about opinions. So if you want to join our conversation, you can talk to me. I will happily chat with you. But I would love to, see more comments and stuff on YouTube and kind of see what you guys think about whether you agree with what we're saying, disagree, just kind of like keep that conversation going and what some of your favorite upcoming episodes are and why you like them. I want to kind of hear a little bit more.
Okay, I won't be difficult, but I will typically want to say, scram nerd. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to talk to Kelly. Kelly's my queen. But you're right. Engagement with people who also like this show is big. And I will tell you, this is big, 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 big. So there was a girl, just when I think like, Kelly, is it just you and I that like this show? Like, I know there's like a following, but at the same time, I'm like, no one really cares anymore. It's fucking 6 years later. However, there was a girl who got a tattoo of the Piñata episode, the when they get the hair, the schooling, it was the not a official hairdresser. So there was a girl who got that tattoo on her, and she messaged Julie Klausner or whatever. And so it's like there is a fan base for people like that. I would like to totally hear what they think of the show. And yeah, you can do your comments or whatever. But Kelly will be more sweet. I'll usually be like, scram, don't talk to me. I'm trying to sleep.
But I like that. I mean, when I did, some of the, the shows with most shows have a good like diehard base. It's really interesting. I like to see kind of, what people think about certain parts of it and what drew them to the show and why they keep rewatching it. And I know I think it's in Australia where it's just now airing or something like that. So it'd just be really fun to kind of see what, how the show is impacting people watching it now with everything going on in the world now as we are and how it's still so relatable. I want to hear more stories. So leave comments on YouTube or you can tweet me at Kelly with an IE079. I would love to chit chat all things difficult.
And I would love to never talk to anybody but Kelly. So scram nerd. No, you are right about that. And I do like the way, because, we didn't know if this was the show to recap, because you're thinking like maybe you do something more current, because that's a little bit more watching it together with other people, like watching the other two because it's on now. But I think even in the scene where Julie is talking about like recaps and the guy was like, can you do shows that were, off the air? I was like, oh my God, is this not like speaking to us?
Exactly.
Yeah, I want my paycheck.
And her answer was yes. So there
So we did it. Yeah.
We did it.
Always a delight. Anything else with the show? How you were liking season 2? Is it kind of, I mean, I think we're hitting pretty hard right now.
Yeah, no, I'm just I'm excited for the next ones. I will rewatch them like right before we do this, so it's like fresh in my head and all of that. So I'm really looking forward to the next one, and just keep watching with us and growing with us, and make sure you visit ViridianRoad.com and check out some of the fun shirts and other fun home decor stuff that this little small business has. We definitely want to support as we can, and in the spirit of the charitableness of this episode, if there are any local charities around you where you can help support anyone suffering from all of these storms out there, please support if you can.
A delight you are. A delight. And I noticed you're wearing your Big Mistake shirt,
yes.
a la Vivian. You could pick that up at ViridianRoad.com. And if you want to support my stuff, patreon.com/randomlyRJ Jr. Mostly just to support production costs of all of the stuff. I do this one show with Kellie, which, by the way, has to be one of my favorites that I do. I, of course, love Randomly with Ronnie Jr. It is an interview series, but there's something so special. As I say, I could recap with like 100 people about housewives that happen, on this week on Bravo or whatever. And it's current and it's buzzing in the algorithm and in the Twitterverse. But there's something so dope about what we do here. So I freaking love it. I'll see you next week.
Yes.
And hopefully we don't set up our show and have a bunch of challenges prior to going live, because when you see us, just note, if we look grumpy or sweaty or whatever, it's because
it took us like an hour to get here.
I mean, what the fuck is going on?
Because it's difficult people, and it's those unnecessary difficulties we cannot get away from. We are just destined to do this show. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, I hope you get through it peacefully. All right. Seriously. I'll talk to you later, Kellie. Bye.
Bye.